you, the manifesto is a document that was developed due to concerns about insufficient attention paid to gender issues in the country. ABANTU came up with this idea who are also involved in the promotion of women in the country. Be developed whereby it will call attention to the state, the government, and political to the promotion of women in the country. We did that because the government itself, the state.
Are we starting now?
To social justice.
Auntie Amida.
We are not live.
Auntie Amida.
Yes, please. We have started.
No.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
Patricia, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Patricia, we've started, and can you please introduce yourself?
Oh. Okay. I'm Patricia Blanksinakako, Senior Program Officer for NETRIGHT. Did you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, we did. Patricia Akapo Blankson of NETRIGHT has joined us also. So Auntie Hamida was giving us a short history of the manifesto and its reasons for existing.
Okay.
Am I supposed to continue?
Starting.
I should start again. So I say the manifesto is the document that was produced by a broad constituency of various groups, not only women's groups, but concerned groups about the welfare of women and the promotion of gender issues. This came about because there was concern of the insufficient attention being paid to gender issues. And ABANTU came out with this idea in 2003 to mobilize various groups, professional groups, women's groups, individuals, allies who are interested in seeing that the government fulfills its mandate to the promotion of women's welfare, because they have signed to international protocols, international instruments, and yet the road to gender justice was so slow. So ABANTU said, what can we do in terms of a promotion of an instrument that can be used, that will address the concerns and create an
Okay. Thank you, Auntie Hamida. I want Patricia.
Yes.
Hello, Patricia.
I can hear you.
Yes. Since you represent NETRIGHT, it would be nice for you to say a few things of how.
I can hear you of how. Hello, I can't hear you. Ina, I can't hear you.
Hi, Patricia.
Hi.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I was asking how NETRIGHT, your organization, also saw the need for the manifesto. If you can comment on that.
Yeah, I think the manifesto came at a time that it was critical for the women's movement to have a documented set of demands to be able to assess duty bearers. And when I talk of duty bearers, I'm talking about all stakeholders, politicians, district assembly members, institutions that have been mandated to ensure that women's rights are respected in this country. It was critical for us to have a document that we could use to assess what they do, and also to find out whether they were really committed to women's rights issues, because it was an issue of, we were hearing a lot of rhetorics, but when it came to reality, there was no action. So there was the need at that, I feel strong that at that time there was the need for us to get a documented set of demands that we could use not only as a reference document but also as an advocacy tool. So it came in at the right time, and that was what we used at that time, and even continue to use today to ensure that women advocacy and representation is put out there for everybody to get involved.
Thank you very much. So the next question, Auntie Hamida, so what went into the drafting process?
Well, once this idea came over, we called a meeting at the NAT Hall on 23rd of June 2003, and it was unanimously agreed that ABANTU should take over the process. Everybody agreed that that was a good idea. And once that was done, then the process was set in motion. So immediately there was the setting up of a drafting committee, which was chaired by now Professor Georgie Chikata, and then the steering committee, which was chaired by Professor Amata Edu. So this started putting into motion the process of how we are going to get this document through. And then the steering committee was also tasked, mobilizing more people into the fold. And the drafting committee was set up to draft the document itself. So by December, actually, they worked so hard that by December we had the draft. And then before then, we had decided that other groups should be brought into the fold. So that was the time that we mobilized the district assembly women into Accra to come also and input. So groupings like the media, the district assemblies, professional organizations, different professional organizations, all had inputs. And then also we undertook 10 regional consultants.
It was broad-based. It had numerous different sections of society and across the country. So that sometimes people feel, oh, this is just a bunch of women sitting there doing something. It was not.
It was not, because our concern was also legitimacy and also ownership.
Okay.
Who owns this document, and also that it is a legitimate exposition of people's real concerns and feelings.
So Patricia, I want to take forward that point and ask you, did the process actually ensure ownership, do you think? Given that your organization is the Coalition for Women's Rights Organizations and Individuals in Ghana, do you think this approach worked in getting people to own the manifesto?
Yeah, it worked. It really worked. And it was interesting when you look at the drafting process. It wasn't a process that, like you said, a few group of women met somewhere, drafted this document and brought it to us. But everybody was involved. I happened to be a member of the drafting committee, so I knew how the process was. Everybody was involved in the sense that we had the nurses there, we had teachers there, we had farmers there. I remember it was during the manifesto process that I even got to know, I ran WATO because I had never been there before, but we were looking for groups within that committee. We were looking for groups to be part of it. So that took me to, Kole Ogon or something? In there. So it was also not based in Accra only. It was based across the country, everywhere. Everybody was involved. And then even during the drafting process, one of the key things was that whatever issues that were compiled were sent back to the different regions, the communities, and the districts for people to look at it, even validate what was there, solicit for their inputs, look at the draft, and then incorporate those inputs into whatever was being developed. So it was a broad-based process that saw everybody involved. And it also depended on which community we were, because you said that it was in English. So how did we get everybody involved? If we are looking at our colleagues that are illiterate. But what we did was, depending on where we were, we made sure that if we had to look at local dialect, so that those participating understand the issues that we were raising, so that they will also even be able to freely express themselves and raise issues that they think was bordering on their livelihood. So for me, I would say that the ownership was there, the buy-in was there. It wasn't something that a few group of people developed. I'm sure if you call anybody from any part of the country to tell you something about the manifesto, they can say at least one thing about the manifesto, and that's a good initiative.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask Auntie Hamida to just give us like a sampling of some of the topics and the issues covered in the manifesto. And while she's doing so, to also pick on provisions within the manifesto that directly speak to the status or seek to empower women, poorer women, rural women, women that are more marginalized than the rest of us.
Yeah, I think before I do that, I would like to say that just to add to the ownership and legitimacy of the document. To do so. In rickety cars, in trotros, in broken down vehicles, we went all over from here to Wa. So that was really instructive, the way we worked in terms of developing the manifesto. As you asked, some of the issues that were talked about, there are 10 sections within the manifesto. And there is the first one, which is women's economic empowerment. This is important because if women are not empowered economically, we will not be talking about them taking part, participating fully. Shelter and all those places, it becomes a crucial resource for livelihoods for women. So we consider that as very, very important. And women don't own land in Ghana. Policy and social development. How do we look at women? Lots of problems in marriage, in insecurity, in technology.
Mm-hmm.
And how does the government view this group of people? What about their welfare? They are not in social security.
Mm-hmm.
When these women work all their lives and when they get old, there is nothing for them. So this item is addressing those issues. Women in politics, decision making, and public life. Participation is very important. If you don't participate, your issues don't come to the fore. They don't come to the table. And we know that women have not been given the opportunity to participate in structures where policies are made, where decisions are made. And yet decisions are also made for us. Other people are taking decisions on our behalf. So women must be involved, especially when women make up more than 50% of the population. Yes, and yet you go to parliament, out of the 275 parliamentarians, only 30. You go to district assemblies, out of more than 5,000 seats, you get only about 400 women. That is not satisfactory, and it's really disturbing. Then you have women, human rights, and must be made also to be equitable. Laws must not be made to marginalize one group of the citizens than the other. So that section is involved in that. We have discriminatory cultural practices. Culture is good because it is what makes us to be a people, to be Ghanaians. But otherwise, when the culture is dehumanizing, is harmful to a section of the people, then we have to rethink. We have to position ourselves better, especially within the 21st century. You have cultural aspect that really dehumanizes women, really are harmful to women. So we want the government to look at these issues in this section. Women and the media. Media is important, the fourth estate of the nation. And yet, how many women do we have as editors? Women who sit on the editorial board to make decisions. Women, once again, are relegated to the issues of, gardening, cooking in this era. Also, there is the problem of even advertising. How do we make women as commodities? That's an issue. Not only that, decision making within this section. Then we have women, conflict, and peace. Peace is important for development. If we don't have peace, then we can't talk of development. We have conflicts in our country. I think statistics even say that we have about 150 flashpoints. What are we doing about that? Right now, Boku itself is burning. What are we doing about that? And when we have conflict, it is women and children who are mostly affected. Then we come to women with special needs. Women who have disability. Women who have, these unfortunate incidences are facing double jeopardy. Because first of all, they are discriminated because they are women. Secondly, they are disabled. So for women within this group, there is a requirement really for government to pay special attention. Then lastly, we have the 10th one is institutions with a mandate to promote women. We are talking about the gender ministry, we are talking about that. We are talking about the NCCE and all this, education and all this. So how much attention are we paying to these institutions to really fulfill their mandate? There has been little, because recently I was reading and Shrag was crying that they are not being funded adequately. And it is not only Shrag, but the others also. There is a lack of responsibility to see that these institutions work to the fulfillment of their mandates. So these are the 10 within the manifesto.
Thank you, Auntie Hamida. I think we've been joined by Gertrude. Gertrude, are you there?
Hi, I'm here, Kina.
I can't see your picture, but I assume you're there. So I wanted to please introduce yourself.
I'm Gertrude. Gertrude Owusu.
Gertrude?
I'm the program officer in charge of the Women's Manifesto Coalition Secretariat.
Thank you. So welcome to the Hangout. So Auntie Hamida has given us a breakdown of the major areas that the manifesto covers, and the areas in women's lives it seeks to empower and is asking the government to address. Briefly, I want to ask you, number one, has the government listened? Have you seen movement in the area of women's empowerment due to the fact that the manifesto exists, or have you is there resistance? And we'll be talking in another conversation about what more needs to be done, but as of today, how would you characterize the government's reception of the manifesto?
I think that the government's reception to the manifesto has been generally good, because considering the fact that now there is an affirmative action bill in the offing, it's in the drafting stages. It has not been finalized yet. And then there's also the DV bill in place. And also, even though there's no LI for the process or the acceptance of that bill, is a good thing. And then even political parties during their campaigns in 2008 and 2012 general elections actually made reference to the Women's Manifesto document, and specifically the current government, when it was being led by the late John Evans, actually mentioned that they were going to use the Women's Manifesto document to ensure that there is an equal representation of women in decision-making spaces. So even though not all the demands have been met, the awareness has been created about the manifesto. Its existence is well known by all agencies within the government and stakeholders as well. So it has been good. The reception to the manifesto has been good. We are yet to see real implementation.
Okay. Thank you. And Patricia, I have a question for you. So.
Okay. Okay, I'm listening.
Hi, Patricia.
Yes, I can hear you, Kina.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you, it's the 10th anniversary. So, NETRIGHT, I would like to talk a little bit about the 10 years since the drafting and now. And how you see, whatever the successes are, the challenges are, how you've seen the 10 years since the existence of the manifesto.
Yeah, 10 years. I think I would say that there have been inroads, we've made progress. But then, as to the issue about whether governments have been receptive to the manifesto or not, is both yes and no. Because the manifesto has witnessed two governments. And what I see is that when it's good for them, they will use it as a reference document and cite it. And even parties going ahead to say that, I have a copy of the manifesto, so in case those who have not seen the manifesto will have the advantage of seeing it. If it suits them, then they will use it, and there are even parties that have said that they are incorporating the manifesto into their own manifestos. But then when it comes to implementation, it's a different issue. The other thing is, when you look at the demands that are stated in the manifesto, some of them have been achieved. But we know our government, the manifesto comes out with critical policy issues. And when you are dealing with policy issues, it's difficult to show results. Because when the Domestic Violence Act was passed, for instance, the government will not tell you that it's because of your advocacy. That's why that bill is being passed. We have the trafficking bill that has passed.
Okay, thank you, Patricia.
Hello.
Hi, Nafisa. She hasn't responded. We need to go ahead with Auntie. So I'd like to ask Auntie Hamida about what the events are ABANTU and the coalition has planned for the 10th anniversary.
Yes, Kina, before I do that, Patricia has said, and also Gertrude has said, shows us how it is difficult to change patriarchally entrenched environments. That is the issue. And then also I want to address the issue Patricia said about rhetoric. Because as we remember, the first inaugural address by the late President Mills in Parliament, he mentioned from his own mouth that they are going to address the demands within the manifesto. That's one issue. The second one is that political parties, in their own manifestos, they have written
Now you can.
we are calling on the state and the political parties to be quick about taking action in terms of promoting issues of gender in the country. Talking about celebration, we are marking the celebration showing that we have made some progress, even though many of our timelines have been passed. But we have seen some landmark legislation being passed. Domestic violence bill, anti-trafficking bill. We have seen the Persons with a Disability Act, right? Spousal property rights bill, and then also, as Gertrude has said, the affirmative action bill is in the drafting stage. So we hope that this bill, affirmative action, will be in place by the time we are going to have the next elections. And also there have been some other developments. The issue that all over is pervasive everywhere. And the fact that gender mainstreaming instruments are being developed by the NDPC to be given to MDAs and MMDAs, all these are some of the achievements that we see. And also the fact that it has become one of the most referenced documents on gender issues. So we are celebrating the fact that we have made some progress. The progress is still unsatisfactory, as it shows that we have not worked in vain. And the fact that this is going to be a living document, it will be there for generations to come. And if we are not able to meet the demands within our lifetime, our children, our grandchildren will continue with the struggle. So we are celebrating because we are making new commitments. There level to the next stage. That is why we are celebrating, we are marking, and also to show that we are still around. We've been ongoing since about March. We have organized media encounters, radio, television. We have done and we want to show that, yes, women still
The manifesto into churches, into religious institutions, so that they can also implement things into community organizations, because we all have gender work to be doing. And that's what I think we want to talk about next time. Patricia, do you have any closing remarks? 10 years.
My closing remarks will be that.
Otherwise, we're going.
Patricia.
No, the manifesto is a unique document in the sense that though we talk about 10 sections, it has 11 sections. And the last one is a call to everybody, call to action, to ensure that it's a living document. And I think that's what has worked for us, because it calls on all women and men, everybody, all Ghanaians, to ensure that the demands in the manifesto are addressed. Left to politicians alone, left to institutions that have
okay, thank you everybody, and we hope to see you. So Patricia, we have to end here.
Okay.
National Press Center from 10 to 1. Please drop by, and informGhana will have articles and tweets and Facebook updates